Joseph, welcome to the Coffee Pod. My name is chishazed.
Drink the coffee, it'll make you feel better.
Jeannie Mai suggests JEEZY was unfaithful in marriage. Listen, this is a crazy, twisted, unpredictable, dark turn to this situation and this divorce. This caption goes on to read, prenup says he will have to pay up due to infidelity. Yo, who saw this coming, man? I got to give a disclaimer for this episode. Just turned 30. So, I'm getting a little bit older. A lot of people are like, oh, man, you look older than 30. I know, man. I've been getting it all my life. All my life. Just turned 30. Yes. I'm losing a lot of patience. So, you know what that means? I'm a year older. Just a little bit less patient. The coffee's a little bit stronger. Beginning of this year, I announced that I got engaged. You guys saw I released the video, and I had a lot of congratulations from you guys on that video. And, it's been a strange thing going from the first video I posted on here talking about relationships. And I was always honest about wanting a two-parent household for my future family. I always told you guys, like, I will get married in the future. And it's been interesting growing with this channel, and I mean in real life, and now being officially married. Yes, it happened. And when I see situations like this, I think to myself, what an opportunity for people to learn from other people's mistakes. And listen, nobody's out here with a fail-proof plan. It doesn't exist. Nobody. But I'll tell you, this one right here has a lot of lessons in it. And of course, I'm talking about the situation with Jeannie Mai and JEEZY and this prenup and everything that's going on. Now, he did the right thing as far as getting a prenup. If you've watched, because I've been keeping up with the lead attorney's videos on this topic, he also talks about other mistakes he made in his prenup, like having Jeannie Mai sign the prenup a day before, and also this clause, this cheating clause, which is absolutely insane. You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of the video that I did on JEEZY and Nia Long, where I was making fun of the fact that he was obviously lying or bullshitting her, talking about how real ninjas don't cheat. Do you guys remember this video that actually turned into a meme? And it was all over, but it had the caption, "It's 2 a.m. and you're saying whatever you can to finish the mission." So people were making fun of this interview section that JEEZY had with Nia Long, where they felt like he was just saying whatever he had to. It sounded like he was trying to, paint himself in the best light possible, maybe shooting a shot at Nia Long. Who knows? But you could tell the man was just bullshitting the whole way through. Let's listen.
Because
that's fascinating to me.
It's so gross. It's so stupid.
I personally, this is my quote, real niggas don't cheat.
You don't think so?
Hell no.
I kind of understand what you mean when you say that.
They do not.
I understand what you mean when you say
it's
that.
something in us that makes us want to be right.
Yo, no, I'll let myself talk. Let's go. You just tell he's bullshitting. It's something in us, he says. This is almost as bad as when Derek Jackson started talking about how black men don't cheat, if I remember correctly. Any man who's out here going around talking about real ninjas don't cheat, just know that man's about to cheat on you. Just know he's about to cheat on you if he's going around here saying real ninjas don't cheat. All right, so here's the part where we're going to get into some stuff, and some feelings will get hurt. Some people will benefit from this largely, but this is the coffee pod. We got to get into this coffee. So there's a comment in response to this post that was alerting people that there was a cheating clause in the prenup. This woman commented and said the clause was ironclad: texting, sexting, communications on social media, and physical or emotional relationships. Lord, she says, this prenup was not for the weak.
Drink the coffee, it'll make you feel better.
I am genuinely confused as to how someone like JEEZY would fall for something like this. And I'm talking about this clause in the prenup because they weren't married that long. She wouldn't have been entitled to much. But that clause in that prenup of, hey, if I can prove that you cheat, you owe me this much money or a significant amount of money, because it didn't actually give the amount. So they could shoot any type of wild figure that she possibly wouldn't have been able to get. If it wasn't for this clause, any attorney worth his salt, in fact, I'd say even a pretty bad attorney would have been able to catch on to this and say, hey, that doesn't look right. But guys, you got to think of how crazy this is to include emotional cheating as a clause in a prenup where you will now be liable to pay your ex-wife a crazy amount of money. There's so many issues with this, I don't even know where to start. As somebody who's always encouraged men to protect themselves if they still value two-parent household in the future and plan to get married, signing something like this is a recipe for failure. Sexting, emotional relationships. How much more vague can you get? And who decides what constitutes as an emotional relationship? Who decides what's labeled as like, oh, that's an emotional relationship? You text that woman about your problem in your marriage. You ask her to pray for you. You're now building an emotional relationship with this chick who's not your family, right? This clause effed JEEZY over. And in the end, he's responsible and did this to himself. Drink the coffee.
Drink the coffee, it'll make you feel better.
And guys, it's situations like this that make a lot of people think that prenups are useless. But you end up finding out that the actual prenups themselves are poorly constructed. You think with all the money that JEEZY has, he could have found a lawyer who'd have been able to draft a prenup that would have been ironclad, or at least wouldn't make him this vulnerable to cashing her out an outrageous amount of money. Here's why this marriage example is very important, because as a man out here, you have to be very careful, man. There'll be a lot of Jeannie Mai's out here. A lot of them. Let's not forget that this is also the same Jeannie Mai who promised to be submissive to her man. Let's check it out.
Jeannie Mai is explaining her plans to be submissive in her marriage to her fiance, JEEZY.
So I'm going to say right here that I, Jeannie Mai, going into my marriage, I want to submit to my man. Let me explain.
And if you guys want to watch the rest of that video, go check out You Have Anger Issues and I Want a Divorce. That was because we talked about how Jeannie Mai admitted to having these anger issues that she dealt with that might have been a problem in their marriage.
For example, I have a really hot temper. Not a lot of people know this, but it's just something in my family. I've seen it in my grandmother. I saw it in my grandfather, to my grandmother, to my mom, to my aunt.
But that's not what I want to talk about in this particular video. At least that's not what I want to focus on. What I want to focus on is a lot more serious than this situation. And I have to warn you, if you're somebody who adds cream to your coffee, you might not want to watch the rest of this video. Again, if you're somebody who adds not only cream, but maybe just sugar into your coffee, the rest of this video might not be for you. Again, if you're somebody who orders your coffee black, but decaf,
I don't drink coffee,
then the rest of this video might not be for you. You feel me? Let's get into it. This situation right here is why I believe a lot of men, and I will encourage a lot of men to make sure that they marry the type of woman who is willing, and I know people hate it when I say this, but we're back to this topic again. Yes, willing to work through infidelity within reason. I know. Now, here's what I'm not saying, and what some people always hear when I say that. I'm not saying men should be forgiven for cheating on their wives. That's not what I'm saying. And if you choose to hear that, well, I can't change that and I can't help you. Guys, the bitter reality is, as much as we don't want it to, and we want to act like it doesn't exist, infidelity is something that does happen within marriages from both men and women. Yes, we've seen it plenty of times here on the Coffee Pod. Women will try to act like it's this thing that only men do. We know both men and women do it. This is a man's channel and I talk and deal with men as the focal point. If you're a woman who benefits from this, great. I'm glad you drink coffee. So back to what I was saying. What I'm saying is there are a lot of men out here who do themselves a disservice by not having a practical conversation about cheating and the potential of that happening in their future marriage. Guys, it's so important that you talk about everything before you get married, preferably with some type of like a marriage counselor or someone who can help walk you through different conversations that you might miss. Because people have deal breakers that they don't realize are deal breakers until they get into that marriage. Oh, well, I thought you were going to be the breadwinner and I was just going to sit at home and be a stay-at-home mom. I thought you were going to cook and clean majority of the time, and you find out, no, she wants to split chores, and you may think that's not a big deal. We see women leave marriages for small and petty reasons all the time. So it makes sense that you would talk about the small things, and especially something as big as infidelity. You have to have that conversation. You have to talk to your girl, babe. So what do you think if we were to get married and I cheated? What would happen? Considering this, that I was otherwise a great father to our children, a great provider, and overall a great man. Listen, guys, we're not talking about JEEZY right now. I'm capitalizing on that situation to talk about this. Do not put JEEZY, Derek Jackson there in this conversation. Because people love to go to those extremes. Are you trying to say that women should deal with chronic cheaters? No, women should leave men who are serial cheaters. And in fact, they shouldn't get in relationships in the first place. Because one thing you find out is a lot of these guys who are serial cheaters like the Derek Jackson, what do you end up finding out? They've been cheating from the start. Drink the coffee.
Drink the coffee, it'll make you feel better.
But you thought you could change him. No, that's not who I'm talking about. I'm talking about men out here who are afraid to have the conversation of infidelity. The way Jeannie Mai had it, she did it to set this man up. Set him up in what way? Well, and if he is going to cheat, man, is he going to pay for it? Right? That was a setup. She probably knew he most likely would cheat, and she could use that as leverage. And JEEZY signing that lets me know that he either one is delusional about his ability to control that area in his life, his sexuality. And mind you, this is somebody who was an ex-rapper. Slept with probably a bunch of women in the industry. We're talking about a rapper out here, gentlemen. Or two, he lacks self-awareness. You have to be self-aware. Type of person who would have this conversation is not the type of guy who's like, well, I would never cheat. Cool, then you don't have to worry about this. I'm saying there are a lot of men who would benefit. I would prefer all men have this conversation. There are a lot of men who would benefit from having this conversation of the what if, because it's definitely possible. Yes, it's definitely possible for a great provider, a man who's a great father to his children, to step out. And for those women who are like B. Simone and her co-host partner on that podcast, it's no longer, who think, well, Martin Luther King Jr. wasn't a great man because he cheated on his wife, and he was a shitty leader because he cheated on his wife. F what he did for the entire world. Those women with that mindset don't even qualify for this conversation. They won't even get it. They think that the greatness of a man can be reduced to nothing based on them, based on loyalty to them, what they get out of it, because they are the center of the universe. We are not talking about those women. No.
You think you're better than everybody in a coffee shop?
Those chicks think they're better than everybody in a coffee shop. If you're willing to marry someone like, if you even see chicks like that as a potential for a wife, then you're screwed. I am, however, talking about the type of woman who would think and say, you know what? Yes, if you made that mistake, no, it's not a mistake, it's a decision. He decided to step out. Okay, fine. And this is the woman talking here, and she says, yeah, and I know I'm not publicly humiliated, no babies, diseases, and that's not going to be repeated. This is not something we're going to deal with. This won't be a reoccurring problem because at that point you're a cheater. You shouldn't be married. A woman should leave. But if you're otherwise a great man in other areas and that outweighs that mistake, decision, whatever you want to call it, then yes, I'll definitely be willing to work through that. Take counseling, take the proper steps, whatever. That's the type of woman that it would be in a lot of best interest for a lot of men to consider for a marriage, because she also understands that men have sex differently from women, and you're not using that as an advantage to be a cheater. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about plenty of times when I've seen 50, 40, 60-year-old women look back in their marriage and say, you know what? I wish I would have stayed with my husband when he cheated that one time. He was begging and crying and saying, yo, I'm not going to do this again. I don't want to build a family with that person, because women think men cheat the way they cheat. They think men get attached emotionally the same way that they do. I'm talking about the type of woman that drinks coffee and understands male nature. Now, without fail, there'll be people who say no one should ever forgive infidelity, ever. When the reality is there are many happily married couples, whether you like it or not. I know you don't like that have worked through marriage and are now happily married. Many of you guys know couples like that. Every time I do one of these videos, there's always a wife that will share it down below like, yep, had that issue, worked through it with my husband, we're good now. And again, I just did a video recently of a man who worked through infidelity with his wife. Women applauded that man. They were all in the comments talking about, oh, God helped him forgive you and work through that. When the truth is, most men would not be able to do that. By nature, it's a lot more difficult for a man to do that. And if a man's able to, well, more power to that man. But in most cases, the type of person a man is after his woman has cheated on him is not the type of man who's conducive for a healthy relationship. Can he stay? Yes, but in most cases, he's going to make sure you go through hell. Different from the women who divorce their husbands just because they're highly emotional in that moment, and then later on think to themselves, well, maybe I would have been able to work through that. Women usually talk that way when they've dealt with a serial cheater. I'm not saying anything new. If we're all going to be honest, you know most of the things I'm saying right now are facts.
Drink the coffee, it'll make you feel better.
And listen, the truth is, to the people who are like, oh, you're giving a green light for men to cheat. Nah, do you think a cheater needed this video to get a green light to cheat? Cheaters will cheat, and they'll cheat again, and they'll cheat again. Chances are they were cheating before he was cheating before he put a ring on it. Multiple times. But at that point, it's a problem. That is not what I'm talking about. I've sat down and actually had this conversation with other women on panels that I brought on the channel, and have asked us the very question of like, yo, what if this guy was a great provider, blah, 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 great to the kids. I mean, was literally perfect. And that's an unrealistic standard of perfection, but I've been like literally perfect in every other area of his life, but was to make that mistake. What would you do? Would you work through that and see where things go? Would you just use that one decision he made, the wrong decision he made, to be like, F you, you weren't loyal to me, so I will rip this family apart? And most women usually say, yeah, I'm leaving, I'm ripping this family apart. You owe me money. Everyone should pay. And I'm saying to you, it's important you have this conversation, because I believe for a lot of men, it would be in their best interest to not wife women with that mindset. And guys, I understand all men don't cheat, as in some men are just never going to step out, and some men would just never stop cheating. This message is for the guy who can be self-aware enough and honest enough to say, you know, I might need to have that conversation with my future wife if I value having a two-parent household and a good mother for my children. And how would that conversation go? Well, first, you avoid signing any type of prenup with a cheating clause in it, because most men overestimate their ability. And on top of this, a bunch of y'all don't even believe in God. You don't even want the help of God to remain faithful. You're relying on your own self. You're setting yourself up for failure. And with that being said, even men of God have done worse for some cat. Done worse for some cat. All right, so you're dating a chick and she starts bringing up the marriage thing, and she's asking you if you would ever see yourself getting married, and you would explain to her by now she would have a good idea of the type of dynamic you're looking for. And I'm assuming if you drink coffee, you're looking for more traditional type of dynamic in your relationship, where a woman is feminine, submissive, nurturing. You do your best to be a provider and do your best to take responsibility and be a good leader for your woman. But she wants to know if you're going to marry her. She's hinting at you putting a ring on it. And if that's a goal of yours to get married, you respond with, yeah, you know, I would like to settle down with such and such woman with such and such qualities, etc., etc. And then you say you plan to marry the type of woman who values the overall health and wellness of the family over loyalty to her. She would say, well, what do you mean by that? This is when you're honest. And you say, well, what I mean is if I would happen to make the mistake or decision to cheat, the very bad decision to cheat, because we make bad decisions all the time because we are human, and pretending like we are not is absolutely crazy. But you want to know that that one mistake or decision wouldn't be the single most important factor taken into consideration when she's determining whether she wants to work things out or not. As in, I want to marry the type of woman who doesn't judge my character on that singular mistake if it was to happen. It may never happen, guys. I'm not saying every man needs to cheat once. No, you may say this and you may never step out. Like the guy who knows he's never going to step out. But I want to know if it was to happen, you would take a look at everything else I'm doing right and say, you know what? He doesn't want to go build a family with that chick. There are no rumors around that everybody knows, and he's not publicly embarrassing me. There's no child, all these things. I think the good outweighs that stupid decision or mistake. And I'm willing to work through this to make sure that this doesn't happen again. You let her know, hey, it's very important to me that my future wife has that type of outlook on infidelity. She responds and says, well, I'm sorry, cheating, even if you're otherwise a great man in every other area of your life, kids, provision, protection, godly, whatever. Cheating is a deal breaker that I'm not willing to work with. All right, well, great knowing you. It was nice knowing you, and you move on. No one's tricked. Everyone understands what's going on. You're honest. She doesn't have unrealistic expectations for you. And you are honest about your expectations for your future wife. No one is trapping anybody, and you're definitely not signing a prenup that has a cheating clause. Or you can never talk about it, get into a relationship and just wing it and see how it goes, and let me know how that works out for you. Some guy might be asking, well, Chisha, is that what you did? Why would I give you advice that I wouldn't take myself, bro? Let's check out some of these comments before ending this video. Another comment here says, is this the same JEEZY that said real men don't cheat? Laugh out loud, he must have been showing off for Nia Long. Listen, don't you find it interesting that the guys who coined the real ninjas don't cheat and black men don't cheat, who are always out here championing how men don't cheat, they're the ones out here cheating in front of your eyes? Don't you find it interesting that the men who lie to women are the men who women fall for, and then they cry about how men ain't shit? Let's keep reading. Another comment here says, 2023 got more plot twists than a Tyler Perry film. Here's another comment that says he cheated, but she was begging him to stay and he filed for divorce. Interesting. Another comment here says, explains why he was talking in circles during the Nia Long interview. He was the one cheating. Here's another comment that says, if this was a black woman, y'all would call her bitter. Don't worry, ma'am. This is the Coffee Pod, and we are definitely going to call her bitter. Just the way this whole prenup is set up lets me know that Jeannie Mai was 10 steps ahead of JEEZY. And I'm starting to not be surprised. Just because someone has money doesn't mean that they are intelligent. All right, listen, guys, as always, I'm curious to know, of course, I know I'm going to get a lot of comments on this video. Comment down what you think. As always, listen, I appreciate you for checking out yet another episode of The Coffee Pod. Till next time, I'm out. Peace.